Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here this Monday morning, January 25th, for a work session of the Montgomery County House Delegation Land Use, Transportation, and Public Safety Committee, and that's a mouthful. Today, we're going to continue working on MC 1521 and MC 1021. We are going to start with deer. So MC 1521, we have a special guest with us, James McKittrick from DNR. And I think we will just kick it off and dive right into it. James, you and I have talked a lot, and I know you've talked to the sponsor and the majority leader. We've got a deer problem. What's DNR doing about it? Talk to us.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman. Seeing a lot of familiar faces. Good morning to all. Thanks for the opportunity to be here before you guys. So that's a very broad question, but if I could, I'd like to be able to start with this bill that's in front of you, if you don't mind, Madam Chair, and sort of talk about the implications and maybe some opportunities that we have in there. So. As it's drafted, it would require DNR and agriculture to come together and create a pilot program for the commercial sale of venison. My indication is that this is supposed to be modeled after something that's been done in Texas with the assistance of the USDA. The Texas model is very far removed from what we're capable of doing here in Maryland, namely because these are ranch style operations where you have a lot more control over the harvest of a deer. It's not to say that we don't believe we can't work with the USDA, but I would really hesitate to pass this program into law where every indication is that that DNR and ag probably won't be able to pull something together because of USDA guidelines. So what I would suggest to the committee respectfully is that we, because we constantly hear from USDA why we can and can't do these things, and sometimes we don't, we just assume based on USDA guidelines that you need to be able to see and inspect the deer prior to shooting it, which is counterintuitive to hunting entirely before it can be processed through the USDA to be sold commercially. The idea being that we can bring the USDA to the table with legislation that is passed officially by the General Assembly to come and tell us, okay, this isn't legal. This is how we make it legal. We haven't had that kind of input from the USDA, to my knowledge, in the several years that this has been coming back and forth to General Assembly. So, again, I would just respectfully request that we provide some kind of legislative vehicle that can help bring the USDA to the table, along with all our stakeholders, members of the General Assembly who are interested, and have a real conversation finally. Because again, we've had this conversation multiple times over many years, and at least a decade, if not more, on how do we get here. And I can tell you that DNR, we're certainly not opposed to going down this path, exploring this path, and see what we can come up with. So turning to the larger topic that the delegate had asked me to address, so what's going on with deer in Montgomery County, and I think what isn't. Anecdotally, we hear from farmers and others that there's not enough being done. Deer management obviously is very nuanced, right? When we look at the data, we see that actually deer populations are down from years past significantly. I haven't had a chance to see our published data yet for 2020, but I expect that we're probably going to be somewhere in the ballpark we have been in previous years in terms of population. We're a far cry from where we were in the 2000s, but yet, we still hear issues from stakeholders and farmers on the ground. We talk about kind of large trends. The big trend and population that we see now is large concentrations in suburban areas. So these are areas where hunting pressure isn't really existent. You're not about to go on your tree stand in your neighborhood, with your neighbor 20 yards to your left and discharge a firearm. That's very much illegal. The same consideration with archery. And so we've seen and have in fact responded to with our new regulations to this issue of concentration in suburban areas. Obviously, Montgomery County, I'm talking to you, very much the suburban urban area out into the rural area. So those regulations that we just promulgated for this past hunting season establish a unlimited antlerless deer bag limit for archery. So this covers, Montgomery County, Prince George's County, Howard County, Anne Arundel, I believe, as these special suburban archery zones. So in terms of the efforts in Montgomery County, that sort of brings us to where we are, with this bill today. DNR participated with the task force over the interim with the majority leader, with oversight from the chair of the delegation, Delegate Corman. We met several times trying to, come up with and hear from the boots on the ground and try to make some recommendations. Those recommendations had come out. I'm not sure if this group has been privy to those, but they definitely run the gamut. In fact, I think one of the recommendations was consider introducing, and again, we didn't sign off on these recommendations, but one of the recommendations was to introduce more predators to help counterbalance the deer population. And obviously, I think everyone would agree on this committee that's a very dangerous proposition and very much a non-starter. Some of the more thoughtful recommendations included ways that DNR can address administratively the way we do deer management permits, as well as just looking at some of the ways that we interact on a customer service basis with farmers who have deer management permits.
James, can I stop
Sure.
you for a second? I want to make sure that the committee is sort of getting the information that they need. So maybe if we can pause for a second and see if there are questions, because I'm just trying to track people's faces to see.
I apologize for rambling.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You're actually providing information that I asked for, but I'm not sure that as I watch the committee, it's what they need. So members, do you have questions?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Parliamentarian.
Thank you so much for coming in and providing us with that overview. I was just wondering, because I may have missed this piece. Are there specific concerns with the legislation that DNR would like to raise with us? Or you guys have a stance there? Right.
So when we talk about positions, obviously it's a gray area for us because we have to, we love working with you guys. I think we have maybe a letter of information in, although this actually hasn't reached the committee. That is to say, our formal position would be the way that it's set up now. It would set us up to fail because of the parameters set by the USDA. That we know of, but what we'd like to be able to do and given that so many years prior, we've had a bill to do a pilot for commercial sale of venison, I think it's prudent that we finally all sit down with the USDA at the table, bring the USDA to the table, as much as we have the power to do so as a state legislature, to be able to help guide and craft a program that can be successfully implemented by DNR and the Department of Agriculture. Does that answer your question, Delegate?
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Members?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Delegate Gilchrist.
So James, when you talk about Department of Agriculture, U.S. Department of Agriculture, what is it that the Department of Agriculture says about venison programs?
Well, so it relates broadly to their food inspection charges. So the parameters that we're aware of, and that we have been aware of, just in general, is that meat for commercial sale needs to be inspected before and after harvest. So that would mean, I think it's a practice that's sort of incompatible with how we hunt, and inspection. And again, these are the ambiguities that the USDA can help clear up for us. But, at face value, if you're hunting in a tree stand and you see a deer, you're not going to come down for your tree stand, tell the deer to, stay where it is, inspect it, get back in your tree stand and make a shot. But that requirement would seems to be, the standard across all meat inspections and would be expected for a pilot program such as this, or any sort of commercial sale activity of venison.
And the interim group that looked at this, you talked to them about this?
Yeah, we've been in close contact with Delegate Lutke, as well as the sponsor, Delegate Fraser Hidalgo, and we're continuing to interface with them.
Madam Chair, if I could ask another question.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. My computer is going in and out, and so I'm looking into another way to get on the meeting, but right now I'm still here, but
Okay, thank you.
touch and go.
Madam Parliamentarian?
Yes. So I just wanted to understand, maybe this might be a question for you, Madam Chair, but also Mr. McKittrick. So it sounds like we haven't really come to a place yet on the bill. I mean, what you just said, Mr. McKittrick, about it being set up for failure, given the expectation from USDA and how we're currently structuring the bill, it sounds like we haven't really gotten to a place yet where we have a workable solution. It sounds like that's where we are?
Yes, I think we are continuing to work the sponsor. There are advocates that are very concerned about this bill. So the sponsor and the majority leader and DNR and the advocates are continuing to work. I had thought we might be a little bit farther along when I called this meeting, but I don't think that we are.
If I may jump in, there seems to be, taking the temperature with the group, with the advocates, with the delegates, and, appears there may be some appetite to try to turn this into a work group, that would have, the force of law, and get the USDA's attention so they can come in and have the conversation with us and clear up all these ambiguities, if possible. That's just my humble thoughts on the matter.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, unless other colleagues have questions or other considerations, I think it seems like we have a little bit more work to do. I think that's a great suggestion, Mr. McKittrick, in looking at perhaps a study. But just given where this bill is now, I think perhaps we might need to special order to the next meeting. So I move to special order this bill until our next appointed time.
I second that, Madam Chair.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed?
I,
Oops, sorry. Uh, I think there were no opposition. Should we do that again? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you. So the bill is special ordered. Thank you for all of you who were on here for this, and we will continue our work on it. With that, we will move to MC 1021, trees, and we have the sponsor, Delegate Carr, and we also have Ivan Lanier from PEPCO. And Ivan, I will cede the floor to you. You have yet to weigh in on this bill, so we're very interested in hearing PEPCO's position on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you and good morning. We also have, can everybody hear me just to make sure? Okay, we also have on the line Dan Landry, who is our vegetation management manager for any technical expertise. So I guess I'll just start off by saying that, down trees or interference between vegetation and wires is one of the top 3 leading causes of power interruptions at PEPCO, as well as our other sister utilities across Maryland. In 2011, Maryland legislature passed legislation directing the PSC to promulgate statewide rules and requirements regarding vegetation management in order to improve electric reliability in Maryland. They did so in RM 43 that started the requirements in 2012. So maintaining the vegetation management standards are important because vegetation is constantly evolving and must be managed in order to maintain and improve reliability. Trees adapt to their environment and are impacted by storms and other man-made disturbances such as construction. The industry standard for electric utilities is a 4-year schedule. This gives the trees sufficient time to adapt to utility pruning cycle over cycle. It also allows utilities to identify trees in decline or trees that have developed structural defects from storm damage of human disturbance and to mitigate those hazards to the public and the utility infrastructure. The vegetation management standards, which took place in 2012, were developed by a panel that included representatives from consumer advocacy groups, the PSC, the Office of the People's Counsel, Montgomery County, and the Maryland Department of Natural Resources and Power Utilities serving customers in Maryland. PEPCO and Delmarva Power immediately made changes to our practices in order to comply with the new regulations, which include pruning to a 4-year growth cycle next to and under most power lines. PEPCO and Delmarva Power started working more closely with Montgomery County and other municipalities within the county regarding tree removals, pruning rights of ways of trees, and replacement trees. We have seen vast improvements with the electric reliability since the inception of RM 43 regulations. Pruning and removal of trees have played a colossal part of the reliability improvement that we have seen to date. So MC 10-21 would significantly hinder the ability of utilities to adhere to the already established PC vegetation management policy and significantly reduce the reliability improvements PEPCO has achieved thus far. So at that point, Madam Chair, I would like to just offer the opportunity for our SME, Dan Landry, to say any words at this point if he has any comments to make.
Well, let's see.
And then open it up to questions.
Okay. But I would ask, the time for actual testimony has passed. So if he could specifically address the legislation, and you just indicated you're against it. So points as to why.
Okay. So I mean, as I thought I've kind of highlighted, we think it would significantly hinder the ability of us to adhere to the already established vegetation management policy and significantly reduce the ability for improvements that we have achieved thus far. So
yes,
Dan,
no, I heard you say that, Ivan. I was talking about
Sorry,
I heard you say that. I was talking about Dan.
okay, sorry, my apologies.
Okay. That's fine. It's all good. Mr. Landry?
he was on. He's that four. Dan, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, can now.
Okay, good. Sorry, I had trouble calling in. Second. The concerns we had, well, let me say it differently. We've been working really closely with Montgomery County as well as all the municipalities within the county to make sure that we can achieve the results that we have so far. Typically, we work with every municipality where we have power lines. We meet with their arborists individually, look at the trees that might be impacted where we have to do our vegetation management work, and meet with them one-on-one. So I guess I'd more prefer to answer questions. I'm not sure what questions the committee might have.
Well, Dan, could you speak to if the challenges that would present for us if Montgomery County was exempted from this?
So the challenge is if this was exempted, sorry, there's a real significant echo. The challenge is if Montgomery County was exempted from this, it would make it really difficult for us to be able to achieve the regulations that the state has set forth. Because if every municipality and the county itself could, limit what we were able to do, then we would not be able to comply with the state regulations.
You're on mute.
Yep, the phrase of now. Members, do any of you have questions for either Ivan or Dan? Delegate Moon.
So I just want to, the bill is proposed. So I guess as I understand the bill, it's enabling only, and it would sort of restore the status quo with respect to local government rights that previously existed, but wouldn't actually do anything without a few extra steps, right? In terms of operational impact on the counties, of what tree trimming looks like.
Correct.
So prior to RM43, we worked with every municipality, we worked with individual property owners, we worked with the county government to get the work done that we needed to do to maintain vegetation clearance around the power lines. And that hasn't changed. Our approach to customer satisfaction and working with the municipalities hasn't changed one bit with RM43. The regulations have changed. The clearance amount we have to establish has changed, but we still have strived, really hard to work with all municipalities, with all county agencies and individual customers, because, we know that we're going to be back in those neighborhoods. We're going to be back in front of those customers cycle after cycle. So we want to maintain a good positive relationship with them. I think the bill that MC 10-21 would seek to, overturn or limit. There's a state regulation or a state bill that was passed after RM43 that precluded local municipalities from enacting restrictive vegetation bills or laws, and it conflicts with the state regulations. We have to maintain certain clearances that are dictated by the state, but a local municipality restricts us from being able to do that, puts the utility in a position of not being able to follow state regulation.
So I guess just to be very clear about this, the harm you fear is that if this bill passes, you will be precluded from trimming trees that you are currently allowed to trim?
Yes.
Delegate, might I add, Chairman Davis, I think, introduced the bill that I think MC 10-21 would affect. And I think that bill was introduced because of the challenges that were faced after the RM43 policy was set and was tried to, be adhered to. So that bill came out, I think, 2 years after the policy was set, and because of some of the challenges that that the utilities were facing in terms of trying to adhere to the policy.
And sorry, if I may, just one last question on this. Can you just be, because I have to admit, like, this is all stuff from back in the day, and can you just like put my head back into who the offending governments were that you think was the county impeding tree trimming? Was it municipal governments? Like what would have been the cause for us to override these local tree trimming? I mean, I get the overall picture, but exactly what was going on that would have triggered a need for that?
It would have triggered the need for the state regulation or the subsequent bill that Delegate Davis, or sorry, Representative
The Davis bill. I guess what was going on in Montgomery County at the time that would have spoken
Nothing.
to sort of that bill?
Yeah, it wasn't Montgomery County that was the impetus. It was actually several municipalities in Prince George's County.
You're mute.
Sorry, the problem was they wanted to keep more tree canopy, I gather.
Well, they wanted to pass laws that would make it really expensive, for us to really expensive permit fees or very significant tree replacement requirements that weren't, way above and way beyond the intent of, or the ability for us to comply with RM43. To kind of put it down really simply, it would have been more expensive to plant replacement trees than it would have been to do the pruning. We would have spent more to replace additional trees than we would have even spent to do the utility pruning just to get the clearance the PSC was requiring.
Other members have questions? Okay. Do we have a motion on the floor? Either for more time or for a vote? Delegate Acevero, to the rescue.
No, well, thank you, Madam Chair, first and foremost. So I still I'm a little bit I have a little bit of reservations, and I would say I would certainly need some time before. That's just me. Obviously, I would defer to the majority of the committee, but I would ask that we get some additional time in order to just digest this fully and what it is that the intent of this bill, and if passed, what it would do. So, but I'll defer to the rest of the committee, Madam Chair.
Is that a motion to special order, Delegate Acevero?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye. That's not me saying aye to being opposed. That's aye.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay, so it looks like we will continue our work on MC 1021. Thank you to our special guests for that. And with that, members, we have cleared the desk for today's work group. Senator Waldstreicher has a late filed bill that will be coming to our committee. So we'll add that. And I hope that actually, by the time we meet again, I trust that we will be able to clear some stuff off the desk. So as always, I'm here for questions. Yes, Madam Parliamentarian.
Yeah, sorry, Madam Chair. Just on that last bill, I just wanted to say that I am very supportive of the bill and the issue. And I'd like PEPCO to really outline for us a lot more clearly the specific challenges and issues. I don't think it was super clear to me, like the real specifics of the challenge that this would cause. And I just wanted to see if they could follow up with us with a bit more details that we want to make sure of course, that we're not, causing any additional challenges in our intent of, making this process smoother for our residents. But I'm not sure that I quite fully understand all that you are laying out. So if you all could provide that to us, that would be really helpful.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, Delegate, we'll get that done.
terrific. Thank you so much.
Sorry, Madam Chair, if
No,
I
please
may.
go right ahead.
I don't want to get too into the weeds in this, but I'm wondering if one of us, and if I have time, maybe I'd volunteer, should pull the bill file for the old the old bills and just sort of read. It might be interesting just to dredge up a couple sheets of testimony from the old debate, just to put ourselves back into context. If I happen to be in Annapolis, I will try and do that if it's physical files, but I don't know if there's some other mechanism we have.
I imagine Delegate Carr has that information. Delegate Carr, if you could let us know, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, no, I guess with the challenges of COVID, I don't physically have that. I did rewatch the hearing from that time, but that would be interesting to take a look at that. And I just wanted to thank Ivan and Dan for being here. I did reach out to Ivan about 3 weeks in advance of the hearing. He declined to appear at the December hearing before our delegation, but I appreciate him being here today.
Great. Well,
So-
go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, if we could just get a little bit more information from PEPCO, and I think a more full sense, we'd be able to decide on this at the next meeting. But yeah, would love to just chat with various folks offline. But if that information that I think Delegate Wilkins and others have requested, if we can get that, I think we'll be able to decide on something at the next meeting. But I do support the bill. I think we're getting there, but I'm not there just yet. But thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Anyone else? Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for your time, and we are adjourned.